Have you ever gotten into a band and it seems like every little decision that they make within their songs and their songwriting is catered just for you and the things that you want to hear within songs? Well, Cymbals Eat Guitars has been that band for me since about 2012 when I started listening to them. I watched them blindly when I went to go watch a band called Cursive play. And they blew me away then, and they haven't stopped blowing me away ever since then, basically. And this new album is definitely no exception. It's a progression that makes sense if you listen to their first two albums. Like, they are crazy, but they're also very melodic. It doesn't repeat a lot of things, but that's not what they were going for. Especially in like an album like Lenz's Alien, which is still one of my favorite albums of all time. Then they released Lose a couple years back, and it still has that melancholy nature to it, which the first albums had, but they bring a lot of their hooks back. And I wouldn't say it's more mainstream, because I hate that term, especially for a band like this, but it is more accessible to people that aren't used to songs going off and doing other things instead of like repeating a chorus or repeating a verse or a bridge. And this album is just a continuation of Lose, but I'd say that it's actually even weirder than Lose. By weirder, I mean they incorporate a lot more synth-oriented things that sound like stuff from the 80s. If you listen to the tracks that they released before the album, like in a song like Wish, it has a saxophone is basically the lead in the song, and it's very reminiscent of like Bruce Springsteen, but then it'll go off and then you get to like the chorus and like the pre-chorus and it'll sound a lot like David Bowie. So I really get their influences on this album. I get what they were going for, and it works like completely. Another single that they released, Have a Heart, which was a song that like I wasn't so sure about to begin with, because it was and is probably their most poppiest song. It is. And then I listen to it more, listen to the lyrics, and that's what I always like to read the lyrics after I hear a Cymbals Eat Guitar song. Sometimes you can't make them all out, and I love that. I love the mystery behind that. And the lyrics can really connect with you after you learn them, and then you hear the way he emotes throughout the song, and I think it's an excellent song. It's an excellent pop rock song. Yet again, another song that sounds like something from the 80s. You know, it sounds like, you know, a mash between The Cure and maybe the Smiths. But then they add these little elements to them, so it's not a complete and utter ripoff of these 80s bands. They still have their Cymbals Eat Guitars elements, you know, the weirdness, the weird chord progressions. But then they'll add in these little synth, these little homages to basically the 80s and that new wave era of music. And the whole entire album goes with that theme. Some of the songs doing it bigger than other songs, some of the songs being a little bit more subtle. And like, it's something that instantly, like the second I heard it, I was like, yeah, I'm all about this album. Like, I like when you listen to an album and you're about 4 or 5 songs deep and you're like, you know what? It's like there's no way that these next 5 songs aren't going to be excellent, because these first 5 songs are so good, it's going to continue. And it really does. It keeps it up throughout the entire album, all 10 songs. It's just really excellent. I think the thing that I like most about this band is the sense of nostalgia I feel. And I'm not even sure why, you know. It brings me back. It's not just the lyrics, it's the way that they play their instruments, you know, it's the chords that they select, it's the melodies, you know, so it's not all lyrically. Sure, there's some nostalgic influence within the lyrics, but it's just the way that they play their instruments. It's really nostalgic, and it's right off the bat on this album in the first song, Finally. It just feels like there's a comfort there, but there's also a sadness there. But it's a good feeling. It's not something you're like, I don't want to listen to this anymore because it makes me feel like trash. It's one of those songs where like, I want to listen to this because it makes me feel at home. It doesn't sound overly too familiar to other stuff, because that's just not the case ever with this band. They are truly a unique band. Even whenever there are things that you're like, you know, you know, like you got Built to Spill and you got Modest Mouse, you got these obvious influences. But Cymbals Eat Guitars, I think, is bigger than those bands. They have this synth player, Brian, and he uses all these crazy pedals, and half the time I'm not sure if it's a guitar or a synthesizer or a keyboard that's playing these parts, and I just think that's amazing. That's amazing that I can't pick out every little thing that happens in the song, and every time I listen to a song, I hear something new, and that's what's truly so amazing about this band and this album. While this is certainly probably their softest album, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have its hard streaks, because in a song like Beam, you've got quite possibly the best punk rock song all year long. And Cymbals and Guitars isn't a punk rock band. So that just shows like how diverse they are as a band, that they can play these really melodic, borderline pop songs and then bust out that's just balls to the wall distortion, yelling, screaming. And it's not the kind of screaming that's annoying. It's the kind of screaming you're like, well, this guy's actually like showing some emotion, you know. It's not like the metalcore screaming, you know. This is real screaming. And like I just appreciate that so much. It's not like the album was ever boring, but then Beam hits you halfway through the album, and it's like wow, it's like if I wasn't woke up before, I'm definitely woke up now. So that is really cool. Then you can come right back with a song like Mallwalking, which is part disturbing, but also really, really beautiful. It's about the lead singer's dreams that he had post-Columbine. I'd say he was probably about 10 or 11 years old. So it sort of takes you into that imagery, with the dreamlike imagery. But it's also really, really beautifully done as a song, and it is one of the standouts. But I'd say that about every song on this album is a standout. I have no problem getting all the way through all 10 songs. Like, it's never a struggle, and I've listened to it quite a few times already, and I'm going to listen to it quite a few more times. Listen, I'm clearly like a huge Cymbals and Guitars fan. They are arguably my favorite band with a few other bands, and there is a little bit of bias with some of this stuff, probably, but that doesn't change the fact that this is just a really, really excellent and exciting and melodic and beautiful and easy listening album. It does so much. It brings so much to the table, and I would just be heartbroken for them if it goes unrecognized. I think that they should be a way bigger band. So this album comes out next week. Purchase it. If they're playing near you, go watch them play. They're playing with another excellent band called Field Mouse, who's also an excellent indie rock band with shoegaze elements. So this band should easily be supported. They went on tour with Brand New and Say Anything, and I just really hope that they get bigger, because they deserve it after making such an excellent album like Pretty Years. Every album that they've made, they've knocked it out of the park. I'm not going to say that this is their best album, because it's so hard, you know, because every album is so different. I know this still sounds like Cymbals and Guitars, but it's still so radically different than Lose. But every album, in my opinion, has been perfect, including this one. This is, without a doubt, for me, and hopefully for a lot of other people, a 5 out of 5 album. And I don't give those out a lot. I didn't give Radiohead a 5 out of 5 album. I find this album more entertaining and enjoyable. But yeah, please, show this band some support. Get into them. Trust me, you will not be let down. Thank you very much.